If you weren't there, last night's stream was electric. We spent like 4 hours digging through Steam, digging through CS Float, finding all of the prospective Chinese manipulation accounts. After a little while, we had sources straight from China, verified by people in our Discord, join the stream and give us insight into how the inner workings of this market actually plays out. And what they told us, and with stuff that we already knew previously, changes how we should look at every price spike in this market.
And now for our Counter-Strike report. New York's very own Mike Water.
Welcome to The News, China Edition. Quick disclaimer, this is not financial advice. You must do your own research, especially when in such a volatile asset class and when dealing with players such as China with large amounts of capital and a willingness to dump on your head. Now, before we get into what they're buying, we need to understand who they are. Because it's not a bunch of random rich guys, these are coordinated groups. It's a structured ecosystem. And luckily, someone who knows a lot more than I do in our Discord ranked them in terms of influence. At the top, of course, we've spoken about him before, WinKing. WinKing seems to have the biggest reach and the largest amount of capital, massive coordination throughout his accounts and buyers that purchase his calls and courses. But the thing about WinKing that separates him from everyone else is that he doesn't dump. His philosophy, and this is from people who directly operate with him and see his videos on the TikTok Chinese equivalent Douyin, is that he wants to maintain price levels. He wants pumped skins to function more like a currency and less like a speculative asset. Stable, liquid, and trustworthy. And this sounds insane until you realize that these people don't even really play the game. The closest they get to it is farming stars. They're reading the charts, they're reading the support levels, key resistance, key supports, and they're doing it on a Glock that looks like it was created by a colorblind person. The Glock 18 Redline. Now, I spoke about this briefly a few months ago. I don't even know the video in which I spoke about it, but I said that like every month they pump it. And if you look at the chart, it's exactly that. It's genuinely an ugly fucking skin. And if you look at the candlestick chart for the Glock, it follows every pattern that you see in any other market. It has like a key resistance point at 150 Chinese yuan, and it's forming a bull flag on the fucking daily chart, despite the skin having zero aesthetic value, or really any trade-up value either. We don't know which group is pumping that Glock specifically, but that's just to show you what they're doing here with skins. And that's because there's tons of other players in this market. Of course, we spoke about him as well, CS2 REU. He's an interesting character in the space because he's not even based out of China anymore. A lot of people found his account traces back to Greece, but his plays still maintain the same textbook Chinese methodology. But they are still relatively long form and they last weeks, not days, which makes entry decent for you. Now, he rode the glove case hard, and of course the reds in that case, the M4 Buzzkill and the Scout Dragonfire, to which he rotated that capital into the MP9s, the Hydra, Setting Sun, Dark Age, and Stained Glass. And we all saw what happened to those prices and still what's happening to those prices. So if you saw those spikes and you're wondering who were behind those, that's who that is. Now, thirdly, we have the Zeus group. Now, I wasn't familiar with the Zeus group until we saw it on our Discord. They tend to be a little bit more conservative, low-key, which is why we haven't heard of them. But those calls are very concentrated and coordinated, and you see rather large price jumps. The most popular plays they were behind were the M4A4 Daybreak, the M4A4 Bullet Rain, and the AK-47 X-Ray. And with them, they just posted a video a few days ago in which they teased accumulation starting for a new weapon skin. No details in the video were given specifically, but if their track record holds, it's not a pump and dump, so if you get information, that could be a safe buy. Now, our last group is where it gets pretty messy. This one's all in Chinese. The only letter we have is B. They're the most active out of the four, which means they make constant calls on skins. Their most recent push was the AK Aquamarine Revenge. And if you saw what happened there, it's been pretty disastrous over the last 24 hours. Prices completely dipped. They were at 900 at the high. Last time I checked, they were at like 350. A huge price drop for 18 hours in a gun that's highly, highly liquid. So this is the group where followers get burnt because it's free. Constant calls, constant bag holders, constant profit for the guys at the top. So if you can identify their plays early, you know which plays to get the fuck away from. Not worth it. If you hold one of the skins that they pump, sell into their strength on the way up. And those are the four main groups. So now you have a decent understanding of the landscape. So let's try to figure out what they've been accumulating. Well, like I said, our biggest interest would probably be WinKing's place because he likes to upkeep the price. Meaning that your entry doesn't really matter in terms of timing. He mainly spoke about the Revolution case, which is strange, because right now the Revolution case is actively dropping, and the case price will stay suppressed while it's in the drop pool, no matter what. They probably have a better chance of knowing what gets discontinued next before we do. However, it still seems unlikely in my head that the Revolution case is discontinued before some of the other ones in the case. Before some of the other ones in the active drop pool. Within the Revolution case, Accumulation is mainly focused on the Reds, the M4 Temucal, and the AK Headshot. The AK Headshot has the better float cap, and we saw massive accumulation on CS Float yesterday on stream. And the Revolution case shares gloves with the Clutch case, and they make up the second generation of gloves released in Counter-Strike. Supply is relatively low on these gloves, and we saw multiple accounts stacking different types of gloves that make up this case. The biggest accumulation spikes we saw were the Moto Gloves Transport and the Moto Gloves 3rd Commando Company, both in minimal wear, not factory new condition. Which is odd, but supply is low on all of these wares, so it's not really out of the ordinary. And we know they like gloves. They've pumped gloves before, it fits the pattern, and I believe it to be because the Reds need to be factory new in order to get factory new gloves. So a case that has knives in it, the most highly desirable knives typically only go from 0 to 0.08 float. Gloves are all 0.06 to 0.8. So if you want good gloves, you need a good red. But in a knife trade up, you don't really need a good red. You can use a battle scarred red. So demand for knife case reds kind of span the entire range of floats. For glove cases, they have to span on the upper echelon, which means that's less supply they have to control and buy. And then we found some patterns that don't really fit any specific play, and we don't know who they're connected to exactly. Now, if you want to really role play as a Chinese purchaser, make sure to use UUSKins, today's sponsor. You need a marketplace that isn't going to cut into your margins upon entry. UUSKins has the most competitive entry fees, an extremely large catalog of skins, with prices lower than float typically, and most importantly, access to the Chinese market. We've been using them for about a week and a half now, and people in the Discord really seem to love it. Just ask around and you'll see just how well this marketplace has resonated with our community. They're also doing a giveaway, which ends in 3 days. I'll leave it right here for you. Scan the QR code to sign up for UUSKins. That's all you need to do. And then you join our Discord and then sign in from there. So here are the anomalies. The M4A4 Neo Noir. This is from the Clutch case, so there is a connection there with the Revolution. However, not directly connected to Wind King, but nonetheless, definitely something to still watch. Still, we are seeing accumulation of the M4A1S control panel and the SG553 Integrale. These are super interesting. We know that these are actively dropped in the Nuke and Inferno collections. However, we speculated that they might know something we don't. That new Spy collection in the Armory could very well be a Nuke collection. Definitely fits the vibe. Keep your eyes on those skins. Now, one that we found on the stream that excites me. That is the 2021 Sharks Holo from Stockholm. On the chart, there was accumulation during the EG hype period, which is nothing out of the ordinary. All those stickers got pumped during that time. And then volume has dropped to almost nothing since then. And then last night, we saw what seemed to be the early stages of accumulation, right? On the Steam chart, there was 2 sold, 4 sold, 6 sold, and then 16, and then 24. And it happened all in the last 24 hours. So this could be early, very, very early. Do your own research, of course, on Steam DT. And lastly, the one that makes 0 sense in my head. I saw one account that raised a few red flags, but now I've seen 2, which makes it a pattern. And that is skins within the Ascent collection. Now, these are not rare items whatsoever. These are basic drops you get once a week. My theory is that bot farmers are taking their weekly drops and organizing their stuff into different accounts. But also, there's just like a ton of the AKs and a ton of like the MP9s and Zeuses. So while I do lean towards that explanation, the actual distribution of items with rarity doesn't really hold up. It's best to stay away from this play. However, if the Ascent collection does get discontinued, that opens up a lot of new doors for new investment speculation following that discontinuation. The risk to reward on this specific one, not worth it. Wait for confirmation. So here's what we've learned from tracking these groups yesterday and over the past few weeks. It's not about predicting what's going to be valuable. It's about predicting what other people think will be valuable and then being early. These groups succeed because they move first. They move big and they move together. We can't compete with their capital or coordination, but we can watch and we can wait for patterns to develop, and then after the patterns develop, then we can jump in and expect the pattern to take hold. Yes, you'll make less profit on the second cycle than you would on the first, However, your risk to reward ratio is much better on that second cycle as opposed to the first. And that's how you follow the smart money without becoming the exit liquidity. That Glock is fucking ugly, but they pump it because they pump it. And knowing that is worth more than any skin pick individual. So here's some stuff to watch over the next week. Firstly, the Sharks Holo. As we spoke about, accumulation is in the beginning phases, it looks like. Next, of course, the Revolution case, and of course the fillers within it. The reds have seemed to have been already pumped, but as we know, the trade up fillers lag. The R8, that's a purple, and the P2000, which is a pink, both carry a 0 to 1 float cap. Find the one with the bigger discrepancy between that one and the tier above it. And keep an eye for a high tier item that's on the move. That could be that Zeus group we were talking about previously. No stream today. However, I will try to do one tomorrow, a little bit earlier in the day, so that Europe can watch, and we will do the same thing over again, taking a look at accounts, trying to get some news on China and their speculated next move. Cheers.